In this video, we're going to take a look at some gauges from GlowShift. This is their MaxTow line, double vision. You get an LED readout plus sweep, stepper motor technology, etc. These are among the cheapest gauges on the internet. They're meant to be a budget item. Your mileage may vary, but I thought I'd give it a shot. Maybe I've got more money than sense, but for about $265, $270, I got 3 gauges and their triple pod for the A-pillar. What I got was fuel pressure gauge. It has a sending unit. Water temperature gauge also has a sending unit. That is 1/8 NPT. So if you're going to put it in something other than 1/8 NPT, let's see, I think Edelbrock does 1/8. Holly, most of their stuff is minimum 1/4 inch. So NPT adapters may be needed if you want to do that. And we've got a vacuum boost gauge. I'm not running any boost, just wanted to see how much vacuum I'm pulling, because I've got a vacuum reference fuel pressure regulator. I want to see how and where the fuel pressure is changing. So I've actually already got these out of the boxes, and already got some work done. Get to that in a second. But again, these are a bottom of the line, bottom of the line gauge in terms of price. Some people have said, oh, these things are garbage, don't bother. Others have said, hey, I've had no problems with them, just as good as my autometer or whatever else at a fraction of the price. Both read the same thing. Neither one of them's died yet. Your mileage may vary. But being that everything about my truck is fairly budget, except for my valve train, a few other things engine-wise, I just wanted to see what could be done with some cheap gauges and an A-pillar kit. It's a bundle that you can buy from them. This is their MaxTow line. A little bit nicer. These gauges are 10, 15, 20 bucks more than their comparable counterparts that don't have the dual type of display in the GlowShift line, 7 color, 9 color, 10 color, whatever they are. This is not meant to be a commercial for them. This is just, hey, they were cheap, seemed all right, thought I'd try it and see how they work out, see how it looks when I get it done. So I'm gonna get these in a pillar pod and see how everything goes together. Already fitted and painted. The way it comes, it's black, textured, a little bit shiny. To get it to perfectly fit to the A-pillar, some heating and massaging is required. Be careful though, don't heat it too much for too long, because this plastic tends to shrink. So don't get it too hot, or it'll change shape before you can get it where you want it. Just take your time, be careful, be patient. This is a little bit fiddly, so it's not something you just zip right through. For me, this is day 2. I did all the prep work yesterday. Wiring, I chose their 3-in-1 gauge power harness, which is kind of nice. Lets you connect 1, 2, 3 gauges to one power source. And then each individual gauge has its own connector going from there. Since you have to pass wires all the way down, the best place to try to do that is here in these recesses at the apex of where those arches are for the gauges, here and here. And down here, I'm gonna just move it around, try to get it to exit somewhere right in this region, so that everything will clear past the A-pillar and the hole in the dash. Some minor trimming and adjusting may be necessary here as well as on your A-pillar to get those things to fit together and drop this bundle of wires down where you want to. So let's have a look here. This kit comes with the 4 fasteners. Here's 2 holes I put on the door side and then 3 on the glass side. And a 3rd. So this will look pretty good eventually. What we need to do is to use some of this. This is really good stuff to help anchor the wiring here and here. If you use zip ties, make sure you place them where they're not going to be jammed up in here where you're trying to squeeze this against your A-pillar, because these are the places where you're going to have, if there are any clearance issues between this piece and the A-pillar, that's where they're going to be, plus down here. So what this adhesive tape helps to do is you can take these right in the apex so that they can't move around, jiggle when you go to put it together. Plus this stuff lasts a good long time. You can get it at any drugstore. Athletic, medical bandage tape. It lasts about 5 or 6 years before the adhesive turns to dust, but it works pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and get these two portions taped up and then do some fitting and figure out where to route this for the best fit and the least amount of trimming and headache. So they give you 4 nylon fasteners to go through the pod into your A-pillar with the kit. I wanted one more, so I just grabbed one out of the toolbox. What I did was just punch these through a piece of cardboard, scuff up the top so they'll take paint, shoot them a little bit of paint, and wait for them to dry. That way they match the color of the pod. They don't stick out so much. And here's the hole in the top of the dash, just inboard of the pillar, A-pillar, where it probably makes most sense to pass all of your wiring, which means we just need to get down here and through here, past the anchor points for the trim, either inboard or outboard of it, and then drop down. I wanted to show you this. This is a good reference to have. This is true at least through 93, maybe 94, back to 88. The convenience center up underneath the dash, but not below the steering wheel. There's a number of connections there. If you've got 4-wheel drive, you'll probably see that connected right over in this area. This is where cruise control lives. It's 3 wires, but a lot of this is going to be empty. Some of these will have pins and a few won't. But I'll move this here if you want to screenshot that and then zoom in on it. V plus is for battery positive, hot at all times. GR for ground, HRS, hot, run and start. These two right here should also say S, hot and run and start. Hot at all times, ground, hot at all times, hot and run and start for these two, hot at all times. Down here you've got the big square turn signal flasher and your horn relay. You've got these two floating out over here by themselves below the door dinger module, which is here. Pin out for that is as follows. A lot of folks will hook into this dimmer output for your gauges, which is what I have chosen to do. That's the only one I've used. I created kind of a pass-through through a female and then a male spade on about 2 inches of wire in between the module and these connectors. And I teed off of this dimmer wire so I can put a spade connector into it to power all the gauges that I'm plugging into here. I'm going to be using a 3/16 female spade connector over in here because these are smaller than the 1/4 inch blades that these use. So you can find a ground, plenty of those. You can find hot at all times if you have a gauge memory for your settings for dimming, recall, etc. And then you got some for hot and run and start to power your gauges when you key on. So it's actually a pretty good way to do that. A lot of people aren't aware that this area has a lot of things that you can use in it to power all sorts of accessories, small 12-volt things. You can also, most of these are protected with fuses. You can look those up in the field manual, or you can actually add another one if you really want to on the fuse box side, which is above all this underneath the steering wheel. the wiring under the hood used the same grommet for the cruise control module. Got 3 wires coming through. First stop is at the vacuum sensor, and on over to fuel pressure sensor, and then on over to coolant temp sensor. I've got this one in the back of the intake. It reads about 15, maybe 20 degrees cooler back there than it would up here, but it was just easy and convenient. It's close enough. This thing runs cool enough that if I see anything over 160 on the gauge inside, I know something's wrong. Another look at the pod. So far, I'm fairly okay and impressed with this stuff from GlowShift. MaxTow. I actually went and got another one for the transmission temp. I don't particularly like this one. It's a VDO gauge. It barely moves, if at all. I like something that has a shorter read range that I can actually see move. Be nice, particularly when towing. Everything, all the spare is here and labeled. I'm going to tuck that up, Velcro it or zip tie it to a metal bracket for the parking brake, I think. But overall, I'm fairly impressed with what they offer for a pretty low price. I mean, we all know it's offshore made, kind of cheap stuff, but it is what it is. Use it for what it is, get some benefit, or buy really expensive autometer gauges, some of which are also now made offshore. So that's what's up. Thought this is worth one more look. The vacuum boost sensor filter line, I've got it teed off of fuel pressure regulator, which goes over to the throttle body. So easy vacuum source. It was close, so I just tied it in here right by the brake booster, out of the way.